No more Eli. It's time to engage the Hawk. Hawk is my favorite character from the Cobra Kai series, and with that said, I have not all been too happy with how these past seasons have been treating my GOAT, and to further emphasize this, I'm going to be breaking down his arc from the beginning of the series all the way up to the end of Season 6, Part 1. The reason I decided to make this video now and not wait for the tournament is because Hawk's track record is getting awfully inconsistent, and we need to see where he stands before the biggest fight of his life. And so, with that aside, I hope you guys enjoy this analysis. Let's take it back all the way to Season 1, where Hawk wasn't even known as Hawk, rather he was known as Eli Moskowitz. He was a shy kid who mainly had one friend, which was Demetri, and he was known as the kid with the weird lip. This quote-unquote weird lip is actually the scar from a surgery, as he was born with a cleft lip, which leads into him getting bullied by others at school, specifically Kyler and Brooks. We see it getting so bad that his mom tries calling the school, but this really does nothing, as Eli believes he's going to be nothing but a kid with a weird lip. That is until he meets Miguel Diaz, who would strike some inspiration by striking first against Kyler and his bullies and showing him the way of Cobra Kai. Eli, after seeing what Cobra Kai did for Miguel, decides to give it a try, and unfortunately Johnny immediately calls him out for his weird lip and suggests him to flip the script if he wants to not be defined by his weird lip. Eli takes this hyper literally by changing his whole persona as a whole, quite literally spreading his wings and gaining confidence, all the while changing his hairstyle. And we actually do funnily see the scar not be as noticeable, showing that Eli has gained confidence and isn't letting the lip define his character. After this, Hawk would start to go on a roll, helping supply Aisha's party, getting with Moon, and doing very decently in the All Valley, making it to the semifinals. However, due to Johnny teaching the group no mercy after a bad encounter with Daniel LaRusso, he would proceed to attack Robby when his back was turned. This would ultimately allow Cobra Kai to win, but Johnny isn't trying to have the old ways of Cobra Kai come back, and with this, he'd try to teach Hawk and Miguel about honor, but to Hawk, he believes it was because they were merciless towards his son. However, Hawk is kind of missing the bigger picture here. Before Johnny could really teach more about his style, Kreese would begin to take over and start to specifically get into Hawk's head. And because of this, Hawk would begin to go down a darker path. He'd begin to not only pick on new cobras like Chris and Mitch, but he'd constantly be on Demetri for not even being in the dojo, even threatening his own friend after Demetri got hit in the face by Kreese. After Hawk attempts to try and jump bro for writing a bad review, this would lead into him losing pretty badly to Sam and Robby. And after Moon finds out that Hawk tried jumping Demetri over a dumb review, she walks away, which would allow Kreese to further help him channel his rage and manipulate him. Hawk would go on to vandalize and even take Miyagi's Medal of Honor, stirring up some even more drama than he did in the All Valley. This leads into Miguel, who managed to listen through Johnny's lesson trying to teach him about honor, and Hawk wouldn't listen, leading into Miguel defeating him and taking the medal. After this, Hawk would just continue to take more L's with him trying to flirt with Piper, but then she'd see that she's actually Moon's new girlfriend. He'd get humiliated by Demetri for being a bedwetter and would unfortunately lose to Bro in their final encounter. A lot of people like to call this one scuff, but honestly, it makes a lot of sense as to why Hawk specifically lost this fight. Hawk not only was blinded by rage, but he probably fought the most people out of anybody in the entire school fight. And by the time he fights Demetri, he's already beaten up pretty badly, and he himself doesn't even take Demetri seriously. And on top of all of this, Bro gets kicked into a trophy case. Like, you really can't blame anybody but Hawk for this L, I'm not gonna lie. Anywho, after Cobra Kai would lose to Miyagi Do, Hawk would be the first one to rush to Miguel's side to see the aftermath. Hawk throughout the season already saw mercy as a weakness and believed Johnny and Miguel were just saying they had honor when in reality they wanted to use it just to protect Robby and Sam. And on top of Kreese's mentality and now seeing Robby use no mercy, Hawk is convinced that he must embrace the full Cobra Kai way in order to be powerful. And on top of Kreese's mentality and now seeing Robby use no mercy against Miguel, Hawk is convinced that he must embrace the full Cobra Kai way in order to be strong and become the next champion. He'd abandon Johnny's side and join up with Kreese, leading into him becoming the new King Cobra, at least for the first half of Season 3. Now, Hawk by this point is now fully embracing all 3 rules of the Cobra Kai way, which slowly turns him into the one thing he hated most, that being a bully. He'd destroy his best friend's project and even snap his arm, along with bullying the weaker cobras Kreese kicked out despite knowing them for so long. And as we know, of course, he'd fully show no mercy against Brooks, showing he has what it takes to be number 1. He'd even go as far as to hang out with Kyler, the same dude that bullied him, Demetri, and Miguel not that long ago. And after Miguel and Johnny both try to reach him, which we do see the Eli in him conflicting against his Cobra ways when they try to reach him. However, he's very reluctant, as Kreese so far has been the one person steering him towards a stronger path. But all of that really changes once Robby comes in. Kreese would start to glaze Robby similar to how he used to do his father back in 84, leading it to Hawk once again being put as a second fiddle. I mean, even Tory and him have more of a personal connection, while Hawk mainly just used No Mercy as an outlet. But after actually understanding the consequences of this way of life and seeing what he's become, he would begin to fully take this in during the house fight. After seeing his own bully wailing on Miguel, along with his old friends now being pushed back, and even Demetri getting his arm nearly broken again, Eli would take control, snapping Hawk out of the dark side, and he'd help the one guy he hurt the most. After Eli snaps out of it, the Binary Brothers would clean house, with Hawk running in to tell Tory that the fight's over, with the last thing she would say to Hawk being, "You better watch your back." Now, moving into season 4, or the halfway point of the show, we'd see Hawk join with Miyagi Fang and have some making up to do on both sides. He'd be a punching bag for Eagle Fang while helping Miyagi Do build a sparring deck. However, Hawk still doesn't truly embrace Miyagi Do, at least not yet. You see, he still kind of plays a bully role to a new Cobra Kai member, that being Kenny Payne, and on top of Miguel and the others spraying sprinklers at them, Robby and the other Cobras decide to strike first and get revenge on Hawk for betraying them by shaving the one thing that defined Eli as Hawk. That being, well, his mohawk. He'd be humiliated and have his head completely shaved off, shattering his confidence. Eli at this point believes that karate is not the way to go, and really his life has just been taking a turn for the worse ever since he let it affect his life. However, Demetri of all people would smack him out of his funk, the one guy who hated karate and got bullied by Eli personally for not doing it. The same guy who was getting bullied by Hawk is now telling bro to lock back in, as he is by far one of their strongest fighters. Eli as well changed for the better with fighting. It's just Cobra Kai left a permanent stain on Hawk. And so this leads into Hawk starting from scratch as Eli and trying to attain balance by starting fresh. And so he'd do this by joining Miyagi Do. Now, you'd think Hawk joining Miyagi Do wouldn't work, but it strangely does very well. It's mainly because Hawk at this point isn't really Hawk. At this point, Eli doesn't even know who he is and lacks the confidence that he had in season 1. We'd see this when Kyler mentions Eli's lip, and we'd see him clearly get uneasy like his old self. Thankfully, Moon midway through the All Valley comes to the rescue and would ignite the spark Eli once had, allowing him to tap into the old aura he once had as Hawk but now as Eli Moskowitz. And after kissing his woman and finding himself once again, he'd go on to 3-0 Kyler, along with performing insanely well against Miguel, probably the best anyone has ever performed, which would lead into Miguel forfeiting and having the finals be between Robby and Hawk. I love that the final clash in the All Valley is between these two, as now they are on the completely opposite sides from when they last fought each other. These two this specific season have the most going on, with Hawk trying to reshape himself and build himself up, while we see Robby believing he's doing that with Cobra Kai, but rather he's more so breaking himself down slowly but surely. While Robby is becoming a man he doesn't want to become, Eli knows where he wants to be, which in the end allowed him to claim his title as champion. He managed to reach to the top his own way, and this would be the rise of Eli. And now we enter season 5 Hawk, aka Faux Hawk. Hawk after season 4 is kinda tough to talk about, guys, because he doesn't even win a single fight. Well, he has like one little scrap with Kyler, but that's really it. As we know, in this season, he'd just be mainly butting heads with Kenny and become super cool with Robby, which I do believe these two actually being cool and hanging out with Miguel is super underrated, and the scene with Demetri disrupting both of them, since he was not only friends with both of them at a point in time when they weren't friends with each other, but it not only allows you to appreciate the growth of Robby and Eli personally, but it also just makes you appreciate Demetri way more, as this guy is actually a very close friend of both of them. So the fact that he's able to bring these two together, not gonna lie, Cobra Kai, nice little touch. And I also like as well that Robby tries to tell Hawk not to really go all out against Kenny, since he's being brainwashed by Cobra Kai. And Hawk, understanding this, decides to actually listen to Robby, because they both know what it's like to be brainwashed by this fighting style. And so while Hawk is pretty much only relying on Miyagi Do initially, and on top of Silver paying the ref and on top of Kenny using the silver bullet, everything was against Hawk this match, leading into him suffering probably the worst L he's ever taken in the series. However, what I like about this is how they deal with the after effect, which is pretty much Hawk accepting the L to the chin. And this allows him to even tell other characters like Kyler, who haven't really learned their lesson despite getting beat up multiple times, that sometimes you win some and lose some. And honestly, with this perspective, it allows me to appreciate season 5 Eli way more. However, God, the next season though? This next season, man. You see, Demetri and Eli have always wanted to go to MIT and talked about it since they were kids. However, after Eli helps Kyler take out some frats, he realizes maybe he doesn't want to immediately register into MIT and do some self-searching. Demetri would get mad at this, and this would lead into him of all people being the aggressive one and even putting Hawk in the same position he did back in season 3. Hawk would manage to defeat Demetri before then trying to help him, which Demetri would take advantage of, kicking bro and taking his spot in the Sekai Tekai. And the only reason bro actually gets in is because Tory leaves? Bro, he's an all-valley champion. He should automatically have a spot in the tourney. Not only did he embrace Miyagi Do, but he was already Johnny's second best student and has also embraced Kreese's way of Cobra Kai. Honestly, since the season 4 finale, Hawk hasn't really gotten all that much to do, and I'm hoping at least in part 2 he gets to fight someone like Quan or maybe Miguel, just so he can prove to the audience that he's still a force to be reckoned with, because honestly, since that fight with Kenny, Hawk has been a laughingstock within the community. And although I do believe after my rewatch I do like season 5 Eli a lot more, it's kind of hard to really defend Hawk in season 6 because he's honestly just used to make other characters look better. And so I hope in the next season at least him and Demetri get some closure, or he does really good against Quan or Tory. That would be pretty cool. It's more than likely he's gonna fight Quan because the actor for Hawk and Quan were talking about, you know, comparing kicks and whatnot. So if they're comparing stunt work, it's more than likely that they're gonna have scenes with each other. And so I hope it's kind of like a season 1 effect where Hawk was able to put up a pretty decent fight against Robby, but Miguel is obviously stronger. But in this instance, Robby would be Quan. I don't know, man. Just please give Hawk a win. Like, why is the last one he has to be against Robby? And no, the one against Kyler doesn't even count because Demetri was the one who finished him off anyway. Cobra Kai writers, give Hawk the dog that he once had in him back in season 4, and I swear to God, if I see any comments saying bring back Prime Hawk and it's season 3 Hawk, I'm gonna block you guys.